Hi, and welcome to my third progress update video showing my journey to becoming a game developer. This video is going to be a bit shorter than my last two because I'm new to content creating and video editing, and these videos are taking me a long time to edit. So I'm thinking it's better to just keep them short and sweet for now. So instead of having a long intro, I'm just going to jump right into it and show you guys what I did this past week working towards my goal of eventually making a video game. I've been learning Blender now for about 2 months, and I feel like I've come a long way by just sort of teaching myself and doing YouTube tutorials, but I feel like there's a lot more to learn that I just can't if I continue in this way. So I decided to take an actual course, and I found this course on Udemy called the Ultimate Blender 3D Geometry Nodes course. I've heard about geometry nodes, but I never actually knew what they were, but I was very curious about it. And so far, I haven't done too much with this class yet. I've done like maybe 30 of the lessons, and the lessons are very, very short. They're like each 3 to 5 minutes maybe. So let me show you what I made with this course so far. The first real project you do in this course is to make a snowman with geometry nodes. And so this is my little snowman. In the class, you only really learn how to make the 3 circles and give it like a really cool snowy texture. And then the teacher kind of motivates you to decorate the snowman however you want. So I gave him these little rock buttons. I gave him rock eyes and a mouth and these 2 ears. I also spent a long time making this hat. The hat's not perfect. It's a little bit lopsided, but it's great for what it is. And I'm very happy with how this little nose came out. I put a twig here. It's very geometric. You can see these lines everywhere. But I added this leaf, and I made the leaf material by myself, which I was very happy with because I'm not great at materials. The 2 arms are actually just the nose, but, resized. And that's it. Let me show you what the actual nodes look like. So if you don't already know, these down here are geometry nodes. They look a lot like the material nodes, but what geometry nodes do is they create mesh, and they kind of edit and alter mesh. So instead of, for example, going into the editor here and putting in a UV sphere and duplicating it to make a snowman, you're actually using these nodes to do the same thing. So this down here, I believe, corresponds to the lowest circle of the snowman. These 2 here correspond to this middle circle, and then these correspond to the top. And then this up here corresponds to the floor or ground. Geometry nodes are just sort of a way to model complex objects in a way that's more editable in the future. For instance, like in the snowman, if I had just created it in the normal way through modeling, it would be kind of difficult. Let's say if I joined all 3 of these balls together to make a snowman, imagine I wanted to delete this middle circle. It wouldn't be that hard, but it would take a while. I'd have to go into edit mode and do a bunch of stuff. But with geometry nodes, all you'd have to do is detach the node that corresponds to the middle circle, and that's it. And if you delete it, you can always just put it back because the nodes are right here. So obviously you wouldn't actually make a snowman with geometry nodes. I mean, you could, but it's a little bit too much work. I mean, a snowman is pretty simple, so you could just model it. But geometry nodes are a cool way to make models in ways that you can just quickly edit them or change them without it being too complicated. And you can always just undo or redo whatever you did very easily because everything is just these nodes. And once you finish a model, I always like to actually take a little picture of it. Even if I'm not going to post it anywhere, it's good to just have a render of it for your records. So this is my final snowman render, and it's actually the icon, like profile picture of the channel because I thought he just looked so cute. So that's that. This was all I did with the snowman. I didn't animate him or anything. It's very simple, but I really like it. I also completed the second project in this course, which is creating a city using geometry nodes. So this was my city project. These actually are extra because I was trying to make trees using geometry nodes, but I think for the actual course, you're only using these. But basically, you make a little grid, and on the grid, of each point of the grid, you put like a rectangle or rectangular prism, and using the nodes, you're able to actually edit how many prisms there are, aka how many buildings there are. You're able to vary the heights and sizes of them, and yeah, it's very cool. I mean, it's pretty simple, but I've never used these nodes before, so this was actually very confusing to me. But I definitely learned a lot, and I think this came out great. Let me show you what it looks like in the rendered view. The teacher also teaches you how to make the materials, so you don't have to make the materials yourself. And then, of course, I took some images of it. These down here are the little trees I was trying to make. They did not turn out that great, but it was a good try. It was just me trying to do something on my own with geometry nodes, but I realized I really wasn't skilled enough in the geometry nodes to actually make these, but it was a good try. So after that, I ended up just taking the trees out and doing this from a different angle. And you can see, you know, the sunset light coming off of the glass, which I think is really nice. And then I love this picture. You can see the sunset in the background, and again, you see some light reflection and shadows on the building, which looks really cool to me. And I know the colors of the buildings are not that realistic, but I think the combination does look pretty cool. So these are the two new projects I made in Blender using geometry nodes. I'm very happy with how they turned out, and I feel like I learned a lot. I'm very excited to continue using the geometry nodes course. The snowman, I believe, took me about 2 hours maybe, doing the actual course and learning how to use nodes for the first time, and then modeling the extra stuff like the buttons and the nose and the hat took me another 2 hours, I would say. So yeah, in total, the snowman took me maybe 4 to 5 hours, which is very long considering how simple it is. But again, I'm very new to this. So yeah, 4 to 5 hours. Then with the city, I probably worked on it for about 3 hours. What I learned this week is that geometry nodes are hard to use. They're so cool and you can do so many crazy things with them, but there's just a lot to know, and I feel like it's a very slow learning process. But I do think geometry nodes are a great tool to know how to use, so I'm definitely going to try to continue doing this course next week. I'd also just like to note that I got the course when it was on sale for like $12, and I think now it's like $90. So definitely don't feel pressured to get this. There's so many cheaper options out there, and you can honestly learn about geometry nodes for free on YouTube. I just like the structure of a class. This past week, I actually did a bit more than what I showed in this video, but I decided to leave it out just for the sake of efficiency and trying to keep this video more concise and interesting for whoever's watching this. On top of continuing with the geometry nodes course, I really think it's time that I start learning Unity. Unity is the game engine that I decided to use for making my games, and there are a few big game engines that you can choose from, and I did spend quite a while researching the different game engines, and I feel like you can be stuck in the research phase for so long, especially with an important decision like this. But I felt like it was important that I just pick something, and I feel like Unity is very well-rounded, and very importantly, it has a lot of free online learning resources, and that's very essential for someone like me who's just starting out. I've always loved restaurant games and business management games, and I currently have a very basic sort of restaurant style game idea that I would think would be really fun to make on Unity. So hopefully I can start working on that, at least just a little bit, in this upcoming week. If you have your own project or goal that you're working toward, I would love to hear about it in the comment section, and I wish you the best of luck with it, and hope that in this upcoming week, you're able to find some time to at least work on it a little bit, because over time, a little bit goes a long way. Anyways, thank you so much for sticking around and watching this, and maybe I'll see you in the next video, which will hopefully be out next week. Bye!